I'm Jeevan. Welcome to my All Cloud Things Learning and Certification video series. In my previous video, I explained pro and challenges of moving into the cloud. And in this video, I'm going to explain what are the key consideration before starting migration into the cloud or preparing to adapt the cloud. So let's get started. Uh, the points these are I have mentioned here, these points are not just the complete list. Someone should uh, follow before starting any cloud migration. These are some of the few important points that we need to keep in mind during our planning phase. However, every migration is a unique, so it has to be uh, go through the designing and planning phase, and probably you may need to take this the consultation from the cloud architect or solution architect. So the first important point I would like to mention here, the integration and migration approach. The first thing first, we need to determine what is the integration or approach we can follow for that particular cloud migration. uh, and what is based on that will be based on the requirement the customer has. So there are a couple of steps or the integration approaches. There are the lift and shift one, that is lift and shift is something that is just copying it same as it without changing no or limited changes into our existing deploy configuration that is currently on the on premises. So it's like taking same thing, and so that approach can be used when we know the application that we have in on premises is quite compatible with the cloud provider we are taking into. So then we can take that approach, lift and shift approach, and that's easy one. So the deployment team will not need to do any customization or least customization into the application that is currently running. And then another in the deployment approaches, we can say the deep cloud integration or a customized integration, where the deployment team has to do the detailed understanding about the current application. And that may be the case when, let's say, we want to migrate our legacy application that is not straight compatible in the cloud that we are targeting, or we may want to use the additional features that are available in the cloud. For example, in our legacy application that is hosted in our on-prem data center is not on the load balancer and maybe not using CDN services. However, customer decided to use those feature sets in the cloud. So in that case, we need to understand the capabilities and how these can be leveraged when we take that application into the cloud. So this is called a deep understanding or a customized integration, where the developer or the migration team has to do customization to make it compatible with the cloud it is targeted into. And another is approach that is a do it at once, and that is also possible when we if we have determined that is can be a lift and shift approach. So do it at once means we want to take everything we know that can be lift and shift approach can be used. So we just then can take the whole thing in one go, and start launching that on on the cloud. Or do it little or a phased manner approach. That approach is more uh, granular or uh, a more detailed outline approach, we can say, and least impact will be in this way, because in this approach we are going to do small thing first and test that, and once that is tested, then we can go and release that component of the application. And once that is tested and launched into the application, and then validation part is it's completed, then we can move uh, and do the same thing further for the rest of the application that is there. So that approach is mostly we use in a phases, like let's say we develop one a test environment in the or non-production environment in the cloud, where we lift and shift that application and do the customization on the cloud. And once that we feel uh, that is ready to uh, go into the production, and then we put that for user testing. And once that they say, yeah, this is working as expected, so then we can go further and launch this application in the production. And further we can do the the validation. If everything is done, then we can take the next part. So this is in a phase manner with the least or very well outlined manner approach that is there. So these are the discussion we need to do during our planning phase, when someone is planning to adapt the cloud. And the second good really important point is to ask with the customer or understand whether they want to go in a single cloud provider, or they would like to leverage the multi-cloud uh, feature sets. So that is one important thing to determine as a first thing. Maybe sometime customer may want to take one set or component of the application in one cloud, which is really a good feature maybe in the one cloud, and rest of in the another, or maybe in third another cloud. So that is multi-cloud deployment. So that is we need to determine as a first thing first. So it's like, for example, let's say customer said, hey, I want to use Azure AD services and identity as management of the Azure, or they may say, I want to use the AI capability of the other cloud, and they want to use the uh, DNS services or CDN services from the other cloud. So the mix up of all these integration uh, will uh, give advantage to the customer, because the customer wants to use uh, the best of all clouds. However, there is also more a really important point to discuss initially, and the integration and the management will be little complex uh, in future. So that is uh, the important point to keep in mind when we start that sort of discussion. uh, However, in the market there are already some of the solutions available, like Aviatrix. Aviatrix is the managed cloud providers. So they have a solution which can do the multi-cloud integration, and give the really good console for troubleshooting or integrating multiple cloud in one. So that makes quite easy life for customer who wants to utilize this that multi-cloud environment. And next one is also determining performance expectation and statistics in the on premises, and what is the expectation the customer has, what and how the performance should look like after moving into the migration into the cloud. So based on their expectation, so the resourcing uh, and determining the resource and the deployment that needs to be done to achieve that level of performance. So for that, there are a lot of provider already the providing the tooling and the resources to build and maintain the environment. So and as well as the provider are already uh, giving some automatic tools or the estimating calculators to determine what is the best or what will be the cost and what environment or how many servers or what capacity should be procure to do that deployment. So this is important part to discuss at the first thing. So the planning can be done based on the availability or the performance the customer has the expectation after moving the application to the cloud. And further, we may have a good discussion to identifying the KPI, the key performance indicator that customer expect after launching the application in the cloud. Maybe what is the availability level they need, and maybe they say the page load time is very important, but availability can is not the problem, because they may say, okay, our business works during Monday to Friday or this peak time, so peak time they just want 10-hour availability during Monday to Friday. However, they expect the load time should be really fast. uh, so these are the discussion needs to be done during our planning phase, and or the response time or throughput. So what is their expectation? So these sort of discussion needs to be done uh, at the first place. So that will help uh, during the deployment or the designing part to for procure or the give the solution to the customer to overcome from this. And one more point to keep in mind, the identifying the cloud which is, I mean, the right cloud provider, I would say, based on the technology or the standards or governance policy that they have, and what is the customer requirement for this. So that is really important to understand the capability of the cloud provider, what is the standards they are following, and does uh, these standards meet our requirement or not, and is there any different governance policy that needs to be for our application deployment, and is that being fulfilled or not. So these needs to be discussed and identified during the planning phase. And the last and really important point, that is meeting the security and compliance obligation after moving into the cloud. So this is really important, and that is the uh, point that we need to discuss during the preparation for adapting to the cloud, to understand what sort of application that customer has, and then the business perspective, and what are the security compliance and standards that should be there where we are hosting that application in the cloud, and should there be a zone related problem restriction or any standards that should be meeting, or anything, so that the security and compliance obligation needs to be taken care. We'll discuss that in detail later in the security series. However, just mentioning that this is really important point to discuss the security perspective and the compliance obligations during the planning to adapt the cloud. So these are the key important point I just wanted to mention here. So this is not the full list. There are several other. However, every deployment is different. So there may be different question. Uh, so I just try to mention only the important point. These are the really key important points. Probably will require every deployment uh, or every migration planning to the cloud. Thank you. Thanks for watching this video. If there are any comments or suggestion, please post that on comment section in my video. Thank you very much.